Welcome to News Video Clip. As we all know, the head of Health and Human Services, RFK Jr., is an absolute liar. He's a conspiracy theorist. He's a lunatic. And he was at it again today at the White House in a meeting with Trump and other cabinet members when he pushed the absurd notion that children that are circumcised early have a double chance of getting autism because they're given Tylenol. Let's listen to this lunatic lie.
There's also there's many other confirmation studies. There's two studies that show children who are circumcised early have double the rate of autism. And it's highly likely because they're given Tylenol. So, none of this is just positive, but all of it is stuff that we should be paying attention to.
Yeah. But, there's a tremendous amount of proof or evidence, I would say, as a non-doctor, but I've studied this a long time ago.
Yeah, sure you have, Trump. Yeah, sure you've studied it. This is absolute nonsense. And as you noticed, RFK Jr. made reference to two studies. And the two studies he's talking about took place back in Europe in 2015 and 2013. Both studies were debunked. Scientific American reports that the methods they used were appalling. And we put a link to this story right below this video that includes Scientific American going into detail and debunking RFK Jr.'s absurd lie. Okay? So no, early circumcision does not contribute to autism, and neither does Tylenol. That's just RFK Jr. lying again and getting paid to with your tax dollars. All right, speaking of health, President Trump went for his third medical exam in 18 months, which is completely not normal. And Trump has announced that he is in perfect health, even though the actual health report of his exam has not come out yet. But Dr. Jonathan Reiner was on CNN today explaining why Trump is actually in poor health because he keeps falling asleep during White House meetings. We've shown those videos right here on this YouTube channel. And Trump also has bruising on his hands. He has swollen ankles. So let's listen to Dr. Reiner.
I do want to see this during this examination, a credible explanation for his visible health concerns. His bruising, which initially was described as due to vigorous handshaking, which is not credible. His severe edema in his ankles, which was described as, chronic venous insufficiency, when just 3 months before, 1 year ago, his examination disclosed that he had no edema, which would then make it acute venous insufficiency, which is an entirely different thing. And finally, the president has severe daytime somnolence. He falls asleep very often. He's fallen asleep in the Oval Office on multiple occasions with people talking to him in the cabinet room, and was concerned yesterday that he might have fallen asleep at Arlington National Cemetery during Memorial Day observances. And chronic insomnia is a severe illness. It can result in an increase in the risk of dementia, decrease in cognitive effects in older people. It's equivalent to about increasing your age by about 3.5 years. It increases your cardiac risk of having a heart attack or developing congestive heart failure. And it can produce a decline in your sort of mental functions, like it can increase depression, anxiety. So it's a real problem, and the president appears to struggle to stay awake during the day. And I'd like to hear.
So anyway, Dr. Reiner just absolutely lays it out that Trump is definitely not healthy. He is not normal, right there on CNN. Now, Dr. Reiner went back on CNN later, and this time the host, who is Brianna Keller, actually tried to normalize Trump's falling asleep during cabinet meetings. And Dr. Reiner, of course, shot her down with facts. This is great.
So I want to zero in on something you said, which was excessive daytime somnolence, which I'm assuming is the dozing off, the apparent dozing off. I just want to be clear about what we've seen, because he has appeared to doze off in White House events. And when asked about a December cabinet meeting where the president's eyes were closed for a prolonged period of time, multiple times, the press secretary maintained that Trump had been listening attentively and running the entire 3-hour marathon cabinet meeting. Talk to us about that. I mean, I'm not a medical expert, but when I'm thinking of someone who's almost 80, I would think of a little dozing off here or there to maybe be kind of normal. Is that not normal?
Well, we've seen the president appear to rest his eyes when someone is talking directly to him. And that is distinctly abnormal. It's unusual to be surrounded by people in the Oval Office and you fall asleep.
Okay, so he just absolutely shoots down her suggestion that, oh, isn't this just normal? No, actually, it's not normal, Brianna. And by the way, Brianna Keller's colleague, Jake Tapper, wrote a book about Joe Biden's mental decline. How come Jake Tapper isn't writing a book about Donald Trump's obvious mental decline, falling asleep in meetings, the bruises on the hands, the swollen ankles? How come Jake Tapper is so damn quiet about this? And why is Brianna Keller trying to push this off, in her words, as, quote, normal? Unbelievable. I mean, CNN has really, it's just pathetic how they are kissing the ring of Trump, desperately trying to normalize his abnormal behavior. And I'm quoting the doctor there. All right, let's move on here. As we all know, gas prices have been going up. We are now in the 13th week of Trump's failed war in Iran. And so as American gas prices go up, American oil corporations are celebrating with massive profits, and they're planning to do big payouts to their shareholders. Groundwork Collaborative reports the world's largest oil and gas companies made $23 billion in excess profits during the first month of Trump's war, as crude oil surged to over $100 per barrel, pushing up the price of gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. Rather than softening price hikes for Americans or investing to prevent future energy crisis, American oil companies are rewarding their shareholders and lining their own pockets. Major oil companies are taking windfall profits and delivering them to shareholders. Executives on corporate earning calls have announced dividends and stock buybacks instead of making any efforts to bring down prices for American consumers. Now, I know the smart people who watch this podcast know this already. This is not a surprise. But you would be shocked by how many Republican and MAGA followers cannot admit that American gas companies are price gouging Americans, ripping them off, robbing them blind. And I know this because I've been on social media, and every time I tell a Trump stooge that American oil companies are ripping them off, they sit there and they call me a communist or a socialist and blah, blah, blah. Let me give you a little bit of disclosure for me. My grandfather bought some oil leases, some land in Texas many, many years ago, and that land has eventually come to me. So every month I get a monthly check for oil being drilled out. And I can tell you, since the Iran war started, those checks have definitely increased. The last check was up by 50%. So yes, I am making money, and I know the oil companies are making money. Now, I'm not making huge checks here, But again, I can tell that the oil companies are making money hand over fist. And I'm not afraid to call them out for their corporate greed and their ripping off Americans, because I get ripped off at the gas pump just like you guys do. The only difference is I do get a monthly check for these oil leases. That's it. Anyways, that's all the stories we have for today. We have links below this video backing up all of our stories. As we all know, the right-wing podcasters, Joe Rogan, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, they never back up their stories. Never. They just sit back smugly and they lie and lie with no evidence to back it up. We back up our stories. Alrighty. Thank you so much of you guys. So many of you guys have subscribed. I really appreciate it. If this is your first time watching this show, please like and subscribe. If you hate this show, please hate me, but just subscribe. Anyways, we'll be back with more stories soon. Until then, take care.